On this episode of A Soul's Quest podcast, Omar and I are discussing some harsh realities of life and how accepting those truths could bring some clarity to our quest. Stay tuned.
Go ahead.
Okay.
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 Okay. Okay, don't get crazy now. Now you're getting out of hand.
Okay. So,
Back and
the
forth.
harsh realities of life.
Yeah.
What does that mean? Harsh realities of life. What are you trying to say? What are you doing
What
here?
do I want to say on this? Okay.
No. What do you want to say? Oh, you can go on forever and ever and ever. We got to
Okay.
keep it to a minimum. Briefly explain, what do you mean by harsh realities of life, please? I'm your yin to your yang, remember?
You're hilarious.
You're the one
You're
that
hilarious.
said that.
You're right.
Okay.
You're right. I
All
need
right.
to get myself in check.
Okay.
So the harsh realities of life. I think that our modern mind and the way that we work is that it is my opinion that sometimes we want to create a world that is completely devoid of pain, of suffering,
Right.
and that's something to strive for. But
Isn't that like what we talked about before about like sort of reaching this nirvana?
correct? It's almost, but I also think that it's almost like a benign, sterile world.
Yeah.
In which nothing really happens,
Yeah.
and there's no
There's no danger.
There's no
There's
dangers.
nothing to worry about.
nothing to worry about and things like that. But I
Everything's
think that
perfect.
yeah, and unfortunately, we are creating a place in which everything is safe, but we don't feel safe, and we don't feel that security, but we constantly are thinking about that, and the harsh reality of it is that life itself, it's not like that. Life is tough. Life is harsh.
Very.
And we've done a lot of things to minimize the effect and the pains that it has on
Yeah.
us. But like I said before, and I will say it again, life has a way of creeping up on us
When we least expect
when we
it.
least expect it. The problem is not that life happens. The problem lies in the fact of that we don't expect it to happen in that way. You know what I mean?
No, that we have an expectation on how it's going to happen.
How it's going to happen.
Or we just don't expect that it's going to happen.
Exactly.
There you go.
And that we
Yeah.
want that we feel that we must always be in control
Right.
of everything.
Right.
And
we're just not.
we're just not.
Yeah,
We
okay.
are and again, my crazy mind works like that. We are floating in a speck of dust in the vastness of the universe. Right?
You and your quotes.
No, that's not a quote. I just
Well,
an observation
you're-
from like a reality.
Okay,
Yeah.
but from where did you get that?
Yeah, I watch
Okay,
Cosmos
okay,
Carl
okay.
Sagan's, and I read Pablo with that all the time.
Your
and I
movie
just-
quotes and your
I-
movie
but
things. It's so cute.
But it's a reality, right?
No, I get it.
And the question is like, what are we gonna do with realities? Are we trying to not accept it, and we want to just push it away and not be able to confront those things? I feel that if us as individuals begin to realize that this is a reality, this is how life really is, then number one, we could understand it. We could create better judgment decisions based on that. And then we could do a better job at understanding ourselves in terms of the unpredictability of our subconscious impulses, our emotions, and things of that nature. Well, the more that we accept it, I think that the better we become as individuals. The more that we get to know like our dark side, our shadow side, which we all have.
Yeah, definitely.
We all have it. We all have those negative tendencies. Not negative, but those destructive tendencies. It's just a natural impulse. We have to understand it, and we have to accept it, that we all have it. And the more logical approach to those things that we're able to give it, the better, the more productive. That's a bad word. The higher the quality of experiences we are going to be able to get. And that is just my opinion, and that is like my observation and how I'm trying to live.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, so you've developed 5 ways that we deal with, or a couple of ways that we deal with the harsh realities of life. And I
didn't
think this
develop it. I mean, I
Sure.
didn't develop it.
Okay.
You know, it's like, it's reading.
No.
It's
What I
being
mean is,
able
okay,
to
so
put a
wrong
concept-
choice of
Yeah,
words.
this is not
What I
me
mean
doing
is,
it.
okay, what I
Yeah.
mean is that from your experiences
Yes.
and from the things that you've gone through and from the things that you have observed, read, researched, etc. Is that better?
That's better.
You have come up with 5 things that have worked personally for you
Yes.
and that you have observed perhaps with me
Mm-hmm.
that are ways to go through harsh realities, right?
Mm-hmm.
So before we get into that, I want to kind of talk about, because I think it's important for people to sort of assimilate to what it is we're talking about.
Yeah.
So when we talk about harsh realities, when I think about that, what I think about is a mom or parent. Let's just say parent. A parent who does everything in their power to protect and shelter their children.
Yes.
And I think that's a really good example.
It is an excellent example.
It's not that it's a bad thing that parents have this desire or need or want to shelter their children from these bad things. But I think what happens is that when you do that, you put your children at a disadvantage for the experiences that they're going to at some point come across.
Yes.
And when they come across them, they're not going to be equipped to handle those situations in a positive and conducive manner.
Correct.
So is this a good example of what we're talking about? And what do you say to something like that? Because I think that's like you have to accept that bad things are going to happen.
Yes.
You know, you're going to fall off your bike and you're going to skin your knees, or you're going to break a bone. But most parents want to keep the training wheels on forever.
You might break a bone.
Right.
But you're not necessarily so.
That's true.
Yeah.
So if you already know that can happen, that's the issue right there. That there is where the issue lies. You don't want your child to suffer. You don't want their bones to be broken or for them to fall or cry or anything, or you just, so we do everything that we can to mitigate that, thus keeping them from advancing in a way where you have to experience the bumps and the bruises and the scrapes, right? So talk to me about that.
That is a perfect example.
Okay.
And I'm going to give you another example
of
something that happens in society, you know, and it's a criticism of society, and we'll get into that. But that is a perfect example because it is primarily the child family dichotomy and that structure of how that child is protected that either prevents a child to really being assimilate when difficult things happen.
Yeah, when danger isn't present,
or it doesn't, right? So I'll tell you a story that I read in Napoleon Hill's Laws of Success, you know, and a lot of people have said bad things about Napoleon Hill, but this was a really good story. It was a story of this rich couple, very, very affluent couple that had a son, and the son had nannies. The son had people that took care of him. He was not allowed to go outside of the house, and he was not allowed to go do anything that was put potentially in danger.
Trying to think of that story. I don't remember it.
One day, the kid sneaks out of the backyard, goes into the street, and gets hit by a car.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Remember that? Because he doesn't know exactly like what happens. Now, that's an extreme.
Yeah, it's just a little
extreme
bit.
story.
But it's relevant.
But it's a good story. Now, when you look at our current society, you know, I remember I was doing Toastmasters one day, and I did a speech on the wussification of America, right, in which they wanted to, and I was kind of sarcastic. I mean, that they wanted, you know, you jumping ropes without ropes, you're playing dodgeballs with the little softy little dodgeballs and all those things, right? You know, I mean, I grew up in the 90s and we played dodgeball. We played
with the regular ball.
You know? And it's like,
so did I.
It's like you got hit in the face. The other person was out, but you still got hit in the face.
And your whole face was red and you were messed up.
It's like there was only 3 medals. You know,
That's it.
It was either gold, silver, or bronze. That was it. Nothing more.
That's it.
You know, and again, it's like we don't want to be harsh about those things, but those are realities that are truly happen. So I think that in our quest, in our effort,
hashtag.
in our effort to minimize pain, we have also taken away some very, very valuable and important lessons that kids need to learn
About losing, loss.
About losing with character,
team playing,
about playing as teams, about understanding that you're not always going to get what you want.
You're not always going to win.
You're not always going to be the best at everything.
Right.
That you're losing a lot of those things, and then what happened consequently is that, and again, it's interesting to me, and this is just social. I mean, let me just say, social criticism is easy to do. You could criticize society easily. You know, it's easy to do that because society is like a construct of people. There's nobody in particular that you're criticizing, and no individual in particular that you're just criticizing a movement.
So, yeah.
But I think that, and the mental health movement has some responsibility in this, because we want to eradicate anything negative that happens without understanding like the lessons of it, you know, and not really truly understanding those things, you know. And we just finished watching a documentary, The Deep End, right? And you know, the ultimate result is you should have no interaction with your parents because of the trauma that they caused you as a child. Wait a minute, it's just a little bit extreme.
Yeah.
It's like, trauma happened, but let's look into the content of it and see what happened, and whether the trauma was really, you know, relevant. It's like, come on. So we do all those things to avoid pain, which is what you said.
Right.
Parents want the child to avoid pain.
And it's not being able to face the fact that you, again, because we've talked about this already, is that we just don't have control over things that happen in our life.
We can't control all aspects of our environment.
Right.
We can't control.
We want
everything.
to.
We know. And great. Yes, we should do a better job of making sure that people are not being bullied and people are being respected.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
You should teach those things.
You need to teach those things because it erodes other people's points of view.
But how do you teach those things unless they experience
until
it?
It happens.
Right.
You know, it's like.
And if you don't let it happen, then you can't teach
it. It's like words shouldn't affect you as much. Like somebody could call me an asshole and be like, you're an asshole, you're a really bad person, or you're this and that and the other for saying what you're saying.
Right.
I'm like, okay, I understand, but I shouldn't be like, oh my God, that person hurt who I am as an individual. I've been discriminated against. I know what that feels like. I know what it is to be walking around and somebody making you know, jokes and things like that about the way that you talk. I've been made fun of that and all that. I understand what discrimination feels like, right? I get that. Doesn't stop me from doing what I need to do. You know, they miss out on me because I bring a lot of things to the table.
Oof.
You know, that
sure do.
You know, I bring a lot of things to the table that I could potentially benefit them. But if you chose to see that, you know, maybe I don't belong in that environment. Maybe that's not an environment that I belong. Right. Maybe that's what the universe wants for me, and it's okay. Now, if I want to fight for that, to be in that environment, I will sure hell figure out a way for me to be there. But is it really why do I want it?
Right.
Why do I want to be there? So there are certain things that you have to realize. Not everybody's going to like you. Not everybody's going to accept you. It could be because you decide to be a certain way. It's because you look a certain way. It's because you talk a certain way. Again, I faced all this stuff. You know, I have remember a CEO of the last place I worked with, but one of the questions that the HR person, I don't give a shit anymore. The HR person says, he really don't like you. And I'm like, why? He's like, who's that guy? Who's he? What does he do? What's his history? Whatever. And then they have to try to convince him that, oh yeah, Omar is great and this and that and the other, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, why would somebody look at me, not know my history, and you still question who I am?
Yeah.
I can't control that shit.
Yeah.
Think about that. Mm-hmm. So that is realities. People have ideas, they have biases, they have perceptions, right, of what things should be and who people are. Those are harsh realities.
Yeah.
It's hard to accept that fact.
It's hard to. Yeah. I would agree with you on that one for sure.
And my point is like you have to go into situations understanding that, but then be able to showcase, okay, that's what you think. This is who I am. I'm going to show you who I am. And if you don't like that, if you don't accept that, okay, there might be a conflict, right? Or I'm going to go to my separate way.
I think that's hard for some people, though.
It is hard.
I think that it's really easy and I just to put it out there, I think it's easy for you to say that.
It was hard to go through it and accept it. It was harsh reality.
Hold easy. Oh, relax. Time out.
I feel like you set me up for that one. Sorry. I'm just going to drink my wine over here.
Yeah, drink your wine over there. So what I would say is you need to back those statements up with saying, I went through these things.
Yes. This
is what I went through. It was not easy. It took me a long time. How long did it take you to get over them? You're still going through the effects of some of the things that people have done. Just being discriminated against in the way that you were.
Of course.
Is unacceptable, number one. Mm-hmm. Number two, it's not an easy thing to get over.
No, it's not.
And to put into perspective, like, okay, I'm not black. I'm not white. I'm a Hispanic man who has black skin and looks black. And the ignorance of these people to say and do the things that they did to you.
Yeah.
And that's hard. That's borderline like trauma.
Who do you really think missed out?
Who do I think?
Like I'm like in reality, who do you really think missed out?
Missed out?
Yeah,
they're missing out.
You know, because again, it's like this world talks about diversity and inclusion.
That's what I'm saying. Where's the diversity and inclusion if you're not there?
And again, it is when you look at people's actions, then you start realizing. But one of the things that I've realized about that is the people that behave and come from that point of view. But again, this is a harsh reality. And when you're talking about really harsh realities about people, about individuals, they're the ones that are really missing out. Because
clearly there's something missing for them.
They're number one, there's something missing to them. But they don't understand that, again, in previous episodes, we talk about the uniqueness that is an individual, right? The uniqueness and how we all view the world differently and how our perspectives and the meeting, there's a place, it's a meeting of those perspectives that beautiful things happen. You know, they fail to see that. You know, they fail to see that reality.
Yeah, so it's their loss. And I get that.
Yeah,
I get that.
But it doesn't take away from the reality of it all.
And that's just it. Is like, it's still, I mean, when you told me about all the stuff that happened, I was like, what? When? How? What?
Yeah.
I mean, I was
they
furious.
know who they are. You think they care? They don't give a shit.
Oh, no. No. And so the thing is that I think for me, the harshest reality that I have had to face is that I have been naive for a long time. And I don't want to put my age out there, but
29.
Oh yeah, 29. That's good. But I've lived a good long life here now. And you know what? I don't care. I'm going to be 50 in a few months here, right? And I've learned a lot. And the thing that is the harshest reality for me is people and their personality and their behaviors and their attitudes and the way that they are. I was driving somewhere today with a friend as we went out for lunch and we're driving up, to the light, and we see these two cars pulled over, and they're not pulled over. They're in the middle of the road. Like if anybody was going to turn onto that road, that side road, they wouldn't have been able to go past them because we were in the line to turn, and then it's 2 lanes. And there was a gentleman. I say gentleman. I say that with, that's not really what I mean. Neither one of them were gentlemen. But he was outside of his car yelling at another guy in a car. And it was road rage. They are going at it. Okay. And like once they did get into their vehicles, because the one guy got up on the curb, on the grass, went around the light pole, and it got really aggressive. And I'm like, that is just sad.
Yep.
Like, why does it what happened that it had to come to that? And my naivety, like the reason that I say I'm naive is because I've always given people the benefit of the doubt and believed that they were doing things that were in my best interest or in the best interest of whatever it is that was happening.
But this is a couple of things, right? You know where that comes from, right? That idea of, because this is a social conditioning situation.
Yes.
Right? We have a background in Christianity. This is a part of our upbringing, and part of Christianity, it's about the idea of loving thy neighbor as yourself. Honoring your mother and your father. These are things that are ingrained. They are Christian principles. And again, these are beautiful aspirations, or as to how one should live their lives.
Right.
But it's common knowledge, but it's not common practice.
Right.
But we grew up with those things, and I hold still a lot of those beliefs, but I had to kind of like be shaken out of my naivete to be able to understand that those are aspirations.
Yes.
They are aspirations.
Yes.
But we are brought up, everybody in school, all kids in school, be nice to you, be kind, do random acts of kindness, and do all those things. And those things are great, right? But the reality is that we can not realize the fact of what a human being is, which a human being is an animal. And there are impulses and things that are very real to that. Okay? So that's one thing that I think is important to understand. It's a harsh reality to understand that a human being, we have evolved a long way, but we're still animals.
Yeah.
I'm listening right now to Nietzsche's Beyond Good and Evil, and I'm still trying to grasp concepts of it all, going beyond the simple binary definition of what something is good and what something is evil, and understanding the grayness in between all that, the gray areas in between all that,
right.
And how you could understand that and still, apply yourself into living in a certain type of way to achieve, I'm still trying to grasp it.
Yeah.
But I'm getting it a little bit, right? So, but you have to accept that the impulses to power and the will to power of the human being or the animal, those animal impulses are really things that drive us still to this day.
Yeah, of course.
It's still after all the education. It's still
and will continue to drive us.
Another thing that I think that is really a harsh reality of life that people need to be accept, right? Is that, and that is hard to accept, is that life is temporary.
Yeah, and it's always in flux. You're right.
And the things are temporary.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Alan Watts has this thing, he says, that you should spend some time thinking about death. And I love that idea, because thinking about death kind of like makes you realize about the temporal aspect of things, but also how there's a lot of creativity that comes to that, because now that you know that it's going to happen, then you start really kind of like taking out the bullshit of your life and then focusing on things that are important to you.
When you realize, that you're not going to live forever.
Exactly. Yeah. So although it's harsh that you know your life is going to end, why fret about it? Why look at it as a negative, and why avoid which is one of the things that a lot of women do. They avoid the graceful transition through the stages of life to becoming adults and old age. You know, old age is something that in our Western society we pulled aside. It's not something that is embraced and experienced. And women do whatever it takes not to look old. You know?
Yeah.
But this is an eventuality of life. You know, because it is a temporal thing. And the idea, one of the things that we're trying to get people to understand is the cyclical nature of our lives as we progress from one stage to another. We haven't really talked about the end, right? Because we're not at that stage. We're still mature. We're still we're kind of like in the self-actualizing type of stage. But that stage of the departure to the unknown, we don't want to talk about that. You know, we when somebody dies, when a celebrity dies, it's a shock. Why would it be a shock? Right? Like, why is death a shock?
Right. Yeah.
I mean, like, if you think about it, so those are avoidance. You know, this is one thing before we go into kind of like into recap that I really want to touch on, because I think that I find it interesting, right? One of the main tenets of what we do is the uniqueness of the individual and the value of the uniqueness experience, right? But one of the caveats to that, the other side of that coin, is that an individual might have an idea, and we have many ideas that are competing for acknowledgement in our society and our world, right? But there's not one idea that can encompass endless life. And a harsh reality is that because people buy to a concept, an idea, left, right, conservative, liberal, but none of those ideas encompass endless life. But yet, they give their lives to it, you know? They do all that it takes to protect that line, and they don't cross that line, and they just say, this is my line, and this is it. I am white, you are black. I am this, you are that. But there is no idea, no concept that could encompass endless life. And that is a big, harsh reality to accept, because then it goes at the core of who you are as a person. But is it? I mean, think about it. People do whatever. I mean, we fought wars over fate. You know, the idea of World War II, the Civil War, an idea that one is better than the other, but it doesn't encompass endless life. So how can your idea be 100% valid and the ultimate truth?
Right.
Right?
If it doesn't guarantee existence.
And it doesn't encompass everything in the totality that is life, which we yet don't even understand.
No, I was going to say, do we even understand what that is?
We don't. We understand life
we
terms
think
of
we
what
do.
we have experienced.
What we have in front of us
thus far.
Yeah. And what we've seen on TV or in the news.
But, you know.
Or even that is sometimes, oh my God, what? You know, because we're still, it's shocking, some of these things. But you're right.
We're still discovering. We're still going. Yeah. So, like, it is baffling.
That we fight over these things.
That we fight over, I know that this is it. I know, and you are wrong, so you're out of here. You know?
Out of here.
I know, I'm right and you're wrong.
That's such a baseball thing. You're out of here.
Get out of here. You know,
that's funny.
The umpires and the
you're out of here.
And the manager's getting into it.
Oh, I love it. That's the best in baseball, isn't it?
It's
yes,
like,
the sand.
The sand is like, you know, like they draw their line and then just go back and forth, you know. But it's interesting because again, it's like we as individuals, as the animals, that we draw our lines, we say this and we say that, and we think that is it.
Yeah. the whole absolute thing.
The absolute, exactly. Yeah. The binary absolute.
Yep.
Good and evil. Yep. You're good, I'm evil. Yes. I'm evil, you're
yep.
good.
Yep.
Whatever. It's like
whatever.
I'm better than you. It's all these things. Mm-hmm. And you have the idea with all these realities is like you got to accept them, and then you have to choose.
Yeah.
Like you have to choose. Mm-hmm. You have to choose to subject yourself to this limited way of thinking.
I think the idea, sorry to cut you off, but
no, go ahead.
It just came to me like, I think the idea, you say we have to choose. Mm-hmm. And that's one of our mottos on A Soul's Quest, right? ASQ is all about the individual, you have to choose, right?
Yeah.
I feel like when you say that, and I've heard it in the last couple of episodes, uh-huh. The idea of you have to choose is if because it sounds like you have to choose, but there's a freedom mm-hmm. wrapped around those words.
Oh yeah.
That you can't. How about you can choose?
Yeah, but you know what? Now that you talk about it, it's just I was just telling Fred the other day because I enjoy listening to Alan Watts immensely. Just love his expressions and the way that and what he says. And he says this, right? Freedom is dangerous because the moment you could teach a kid to walk, you could teach a kid to kick his mother, right?
Yeah.
And a moral act is only a moral act, not because of the thing, not because we are bound to do it, but because we are free to do it.
There you
Not
go.
because you have to, but because you choose to do it.
Yeah.
It's like that Neo in the end of the Matrix saying, why do you persist? Because I choose
to. Yeah.
So it's like we look at all these things as poetry. We look at all these things as literature. We look at all these things as like, oh, that's something that happens out there. That's something that is irrelevant in my life. Mm-hmm. I don't get to choose in my construction job. I don't get to choose in my corporate job. I don't get to choose in all these things. I just want to do my job, and I just want to go home, and I just want to pretend like everything is good.
Yeah.
You could be the agent of change, even if it's that small.
Yeah.
Even if it's that small. Now, I can't tell you up to what degree, and I don't think anybody could tell you up to what degree or what kind of effect that's going to have.
Yeah.
Yeah. But some of the greatest people, and I remember this man, and a shout out to Rick. He was a janitor at one of the middle schools that I worked. One of the greatest guys I've ever met. And the kids wouldn't even acknowledge him, and they wouldn't recognize the effort that this man did on a day-by-day basis. Tito, the same thing. The effort that these two men did on a day-by-day basis, so those kids could go to that school and know that he's clean, secure.
Yeah, of course.
Know that, and they may not even recognize the importance of what they did. But that right there, the fact that a kid knew that place was going to be clean, that they went to a clean bathroom, that there was no graffiti on the wall, that there was none of those things. Those things go unnoticed.
Yeah.
But the pride and effort that those two men took to do that, holy shit.
I've had the same experiences. I've come across a number of custodial staff at my job, and they are amazing.
But again,
and the pride that they take in their job shows in the things that they do.
Yeah, and again, but those are things that are, in the minds of our eloquent and our super educated and highly certified culture. Those things don't matter, right?
Yeah.
But those are important things too, because without those individuals, we wouldn't feel secure.
Yeah.
We wouldn't have safe places.
Right.
We wouldn't have those things. And there's a certain heroism when it comes to that, because they're unsung heroes. Nobody makes a movie about a janitor.
Well,
nobody makes a movie about somebody that builds a very good house.
Yeah.
That doesn't have mold after 5 years in there, like the homes that we have here in Florida. Not our house, because our home was built down into the 50s, where people actually took pride in what they did instead of just thinking about money.
Yeah.
It's like those little things matter. they took pride in what they did. And that's something to be revered. But those are harsh truths that people, you will not, another one is that you will not get recognized for most of the things that you do.
Yeah.
You will not. The things that you do that really, really matter, like being a good mother, being a good father, being a good brother, being a good sister, doing the things that sometimes are hard to do, but just doing it, people won't get recognized for that, and then people get frustrated because they see Kardashian, open up her legs, got a sex tape, and then boom. That's, did she work hard? Absolutely. I don't really care. I don't judge. But it's like, you will not recognize for that because our animal nature craves that morbid stuff. We crave that. We say, oh my God, but there's just little things.
Yeah.
I
agree.
By the West Side.
I agree.
Yeah.
I know you're very passionate about this.
Sorry, but go ahead.
Sadly, we have to come to an end.
No, go ahead.
No, I enjoy talking about this, so it's hard to say, okay, let's stop talking, but we do have to wrap it up. So
I know.
All right. So
I know.
I want to take an opportunity just to talk about, or just to recap the things that I told everybody earlier that we have a couple of things that you came up with these conclusions as from experiences and things like that. So I kind of want to go through those. So number one, life is dangerous, random, and mostly out of our control.
Yes.
And it could end at any moment.
Our existence is temporary.
Absolutely. Totally. Yeah.
All is impermanent. All is without a self.
I love that. Joseph Campbell, just so you know. Okay.
Yep. So cavity, place of bliss. But yeah, all is impermanent. All is without a self. And the thing is that everything is temporal. It comes and it goes.
That's it.
Yep.
That's right. Okay. Number two, the human animal is fickle and greedy, and so are you.
Yes, you are.
And I have.
Yes, I am.
And I have a quote by Machiavelli.
Yes, go ahead.
We can say this about most people, that they are ungrateful and unreliable. They lie, they fake, they're greedy for cash, and they melt away in the face of danger.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
That's
you need
deep.
to recognize that about yourself. You need to recognize that about yourself because that lives in every single one of us.
Yeah. No,
yes,
I
it
agree.
does.
I agree. That's good. And I know we've already touched on this one.
Yes.
But the third thing is that everything is temporary.
Everything
There's
is
nothing
temporary.
that is ever going to stick with us forever and ever. We're not going to go through a process or a situation forever. There are some things, however, that are not temporary, such as diseases and things like that. But I would say that the feelings and the things that you go through that are associated with those things are temporary thoughts and feelings. Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
Because I think for my mom, it's temporary. When my mom goes through what she goes through with her Parkinson's, and when I think some of it's temporary, it's ebbs and flows.
Yes.
Maybe that's what we mean by that.
Yeah. And the thing is that it's like life is all about ebbs and flows. And I was giving you the analogy of this type of ebbs and flows and then these type of ebbs and flows.
Yeah.
There's a difference because it's all a matter of
Right.
perspective.
Agreed. Yeah.
It's all a matter of, okay, how do I choose to see life?
Right.
Are things tough? Are things bad? Are things, oh my God, this is horrible. In comparison to
to put things in a perspective. And,
exactly.
Yeah.
Because this might pass, right? And you might achieve this level, but you may not achieve somebody else's level because that's not uniquely who you are.
Right.
And that's okay. But we
Right.
just tend to, but again, even with those people, their fame, their fortune, and all that stuff is also temporary.
Of course.
So remember that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Number 4. There's no belief system, or no system or of belief. Sorry, let me start over. Number 4. No system of belief or single idea that could encompass an endless life.
It doesn't.
Right.
Life itself. Like, what is it?
Yeah.
We
don't
where does
know
it come from?
what that is.
Where does it come from?
Yeah.
So did somebody create it? Did it just happen organically? Where does it come from? So no system of belief could encompass all that. And no system of belief could say what's right and what's wrong. Now, that's why even democracy is not the best system, but it's the best system out of all the ones that we've tried.
That we've had, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's just true.
Yeah.
But it's the idea of competing ideas, competing concepts as to, okay, we're going to go this one way or this that way. That's why I loved, and this is representative in nature, is a shape of nature that of, when you look at a branch, when you look at, and I said this before, lightning, it goes in different directions, and then it might come back together, or it might go, because ideas are not ultimate truth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You can't tell, let's say you bring a group of conservatives together and you start going line by line, if they agree on every single line item, I'd be hard pressed to find a consensus in all the things that conservatives say that they agree upon.
Right.
There's some shit that I'm conservative about, things that I'm not.
Right. There's
some things that I'm pretty liberal about. There's some things that I'm like, nah, you're taking it way too far.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's to be really logical, right? Because this is what we value in the West, the value of thoughts, of rational thinking. Mm-hmm. If you value that, there is no absolute. It's the idea of looking at things and deducing what's the best thing. At the end of the day, really, is that accepting realities and accepting these harsh realities of life, what it does is that it gives you a certain grounding. And in my opinion, I think it gives you a more realistic grounding as to what life is, how our uniqueness, the uniqueness of others, and the construct that we've created in society, and then how life and nature work, that is all bound in conflict. By you understanding that, and understanding that all these things are bouncing off of each other, then you become a willing participant in the process rather than being the victim of it. And this is all the stuff that mythologies and stuff have to say, that you are a willing participant in it all. Right. Instead of oh my God, why did this happen to me? Now, again, as an individual, I've been there. I've been there. Why did this happen to me? Why did I have to go through this? I'm a good person. I'm this and that and the other. Blah 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 blah. Yeah. But it's things that you have to learn. It's like it's when you get betrayed by a loved one, when you give your loyalty to an organization or a cause and you get betrayed. Those feelings are harsh things to accept. But if you were to go into the situations realizing, you know what, there is a possibility of this happening, right? I'm going to do it anyways. I know there's a possibility. I'm going to give it my all. And when the situation comes, when it does happen, I'm able to understand, okay, this, okay, I get it. And as you move forward, you become better about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. And then the final thing is, of course, the ASQ way, which is?
What do you mean?
What do individuals do? Oh, man. I thought we were on the same page.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's disappointing.
I'm going to have to edit this out.
And our last, our final thought here is that the individual
has to choose.
Chooses.
You have to choose. The choice is yours. You threw me off on that last one. Because
I just thought we were sort of...
We were on the same page. I'm sorry.
It's all right.
Yeah. But yes, the individual, you have to choose. It's like, you have to choose. If you want to continue thinking, oh my God, everything's like, oh my God, it's like, okay, then just do that. You don't have to listen to what we're saying. It's like, it's fine. It's okay.
It's up to you.
It's up to you.
You choose.
It's up to you. You get to choose. It's like, that is the promise of the West, the individual and an ability to choose.
Yep.
That is the promise of the West, and that is one of the things that we have inherited without us, free will. Correct?
Yep.
So there you go.
There you go. All right. Thank you.
Peace. Bye.
So, what do you think? What are some additional harsh realities that we may have overlooked? And don't forget to stay connected by subscribing and sharing with your friends. I don't like that. It should have said, So what do you think? What are some additional harsh realities that we may have overlooked? Leave us a comment below. And don't forget to. Okay? All right, ready? So what do you think? What are some additional harsh realities that we may have overlooked? Leave us a comment below. And don't forget to stay connected by subscribing and sharing with your friends.